lost it, all of it by Fineprint, so I'm assuming that pretty much the US fucked up big time.
In April of 2020, a security researcher typed an IP address into his browser. No login, no password, no authentication of any kind. And there it was. 8.6 million records of
British
movements across Sheffield. Number
oh
plates,
no, this is UK.
Camera images showing the drivers' faces, pedestrians caught in the frame, all of it just sitting there. Your data out there on the open internet, free for anyone to find, free for anyone to access. Sheffield Council had written a 32-page document about their automatic number plate recognition system. 32 pages, and the word privacy doesn't appear in it once. Hey, I'm Andy, this is the Fineprint, and I've been going through every major UK data breach that the UK government has been responsible for over the last 2 decades. Every lost disk, every unencrypted spreadsheet, every password that was just the username typed again. And I did this because the government has announced that every person in the country will need a digital ID, one that stores your face scan, your passport data, your biometric information, and they'd very much like you to trust them with it. So, you know, I did my due diligence. I thought I'd check their track record. And what I found was...
hell no.
Well, let me just show you. Let's start with the one that was supposed to change everything. November 2007, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, you know, the people who collect your taxes, needed to send some data to the National Audit Office. The personal details of every family in the country claiming child benefit. Names, addresses, date of birth, national insurance numbers, bank details. 25 million people. That's nearly half the population. They put it onto 2 CDs. Unencrypted, protected by WinZip, you know, the free software that you can crack and download for free, through the internal mail. Like a birthday card, because if you've ever posted money through Royal Mail, you know the crisp £20 note probably isn't going to be there when it arrives. The disc never arrived. They never found them. And here's the detail that really gets me. HMRC was asked beforehand whether they could strip out the bank details before sending. They said no, because it would be too costly.
Too costly?
Cost, when someone eventually checked, £650. They risked your financial data and that of 25 million other people to save 650 quid.
I'm not surprised. This is the UK. I'm not surprised, but also the UK government caused their own national security risk. Holy shit, they are stupid and a half. This is beyond stupid. This is genuinely aggravating. Like, what do you mean? You fucking lost my UK's equivalent of social security number. What do you mean if all of our data is fucking exposed now? For pretty much a criminal's identity theft heaven. Holy shit, UK. Can you be any dumber?
The journalist Jeremy Clarkson responded by publishing his own bank details in a newspaper column to prove the whole thing was overblown. Within days, someone set up a fraudulent direct debit for £500 against his account to a diabetes charity, which is, I have to say, a genuinely inspired choice by whoever did that. But that was back in 2007. That was supposed to be the wake-up call, the moment the government got serious about data security. So naturally, everything got much, much worse. But before we get to quite how much worse, and trust me, we are nowhere near the bottom yet, I wanted to talk about something that connects all of this to your actual daily life. Because data breaches sound abstract until you realize where the data ends up. In September 2021, a Ministry of Defense official needed to send an email to Afghan interpreters who risked their lives working with the British forces. People hiding from the Taliban. People whose safety depended entirely on the government keeping their identities secret. The official used CC instead of BCC. Oh my god, how are these boomers in charge of anything? 265 names, visible to every recipient, including their profile pictures.
Oh my god.
ICO fined the Ministry of Defence £350,000, which sounds like accountability until you remember that's your money. The government fined itself and paid, yet again finding another 500 IQ way to waste your money. 5 months later, it happened again, only this time somehow it's even worse. A spreadsheet containing the personal information of 18,740.
Remember, kids, if the government has to pay out someone for their own fucking incompetence, that is actually taxpayer money that's being paid out. That is your money. You're paying for the government's mistakes.
Afghan asylum applicants, including names of special forces personnel and intelligence officers, so spies.
Neck crack. That was a neck crack. I promise that was a neck crack.
Accidentally emailed outside the government system. The emergency resettlement program triggered by that single email cost approximately £850 million. That is roughly £13 per person in the UK because some boomer in a position of power doesn't understand how the computer box thingy works.
Oh no.
And yet is somehow in charge of spy information. What the hell is going wrong here? You paid 13 quid because someone in the MOD didn't check an attachment. God forbid if they get an email from a Nigerian prince.
God forbid that.
The Nigerian royal family, Uncle Atumbe.
What? You know what, Toby? When the son of the deposed king of Nigeria emails you directly asking for help, you help. His father ran the freaking country, okay?
The ICO looked at this one and decided not to fine them. Their reasoning, well, they didn't want to burden the taxpayer. I just need you to try and hold these two things in your head at the same time. The government endangered thousands of lives through an error so basic it would get you fired from any office job in the country. And the regulator decided the appropriate punishment was nothing. Because making the government pay a fine would be making you pay a fine on top of all the money they've already wasted.
You know, I think the best way to punish the government is a mass exodus. Like, literally, going for dual citizenship first, waiting a few years, and then moving to that country. And then once you move to that country, denounce your previous citizenship, denounce your UK citizenship, and say, and pretty much that's a fuck you to them. Yeah. Red beer. Oh, there's no, yep, fair. Anywho, yeah.
Which means there is functionally zero consequences at all. That's not a one-off. That is a system working exactly as it was designed. And we will come back to that, the accountability question, because it gets significantly worse. But first, I want to talk about the breach that should have been a national
bikers
scandal, and yet somehow
racing down the
wasn't.
street.
August 2023, the police service in Northern Ireland received a Freedom of Information request, routine stuff. How many officers do you have at each rank? So someone compiled the response in a spreadsheet, and in a hidden tab in that spreadsheet, one they forgot to delete were the surnames, first initials, ranks, departments, and location of every single officer and staff member. All 9,483 of them.
What the fuck?
In Northern Ireland. The data reached dissident Republican groups within days. Officers were forced to move house. Some left the country. The chief constable resigned. Compensation is expected to exceed £119 million, roughly £450
Jesus
per
Christ.
household in Northern Ireland, for a hidden tab on a spreadsheet. Around the same time, the Electoral Commission discovered that hackers had been sitting inside their systems for 14 months. 14 months!
Jesus.
Accessing data on 40 million voters.
Over a year. Holy shit. Oh my god. I would never step into the UK. And if they if the US somehow tries to if the Trump administration, okay, I don't really like going to politics, but why does my brain, oh my god, my brain instantly went to politics because that's how political fucking US is. Holy shit. Anywho, if I somehow end up in the UK by very cold, very sub-zero cold means, I would pretty much escape the UK. I really hope that doesn't even. But holy shit, the UK government. This isn't just gross negligence. Literally, these boomers in the UK government, let alone any government for that matter, they're all a national security risk to their own fucking countries. Get the boomers out of fucking office. We need millennials in the office. We need Gen Z in the office. These boomers? No. Hell no. They're risking our lives for this? Hell fucking no. Hell no.
The attackers had exploited vulnerabilities in Microsoft Exchange, vulnerabilities for which patches had been available for months. Staff were still using the passwords they'd been assigned when they joined. The Commission had failed its own Cyber Essentials test that same year. The ICO's response? Formal reprimand. You've been a naughty boy. No fine, nothing. So 40 million voters' data compromised because no one installed updates that had been available for months, and the punishment is a stern telling off.
Jesus
One
Christ.
imagines there were some very awkward silences in that meeting at least. And the government doesn't stop at just losing your data. No. It pays companies, private companies, billions of pounds to lose it on their behalf. Yet again, finding another 600 IQ way of wasting more of your money. In March 2023, Capita, the UK's largest outsourcing company, was hit by ransomware. Their security system flagged the intrusion within 10 minutes. Their target response time was 1 hour. They took 58 hours, 2.5 days to quarantine a single compromised device.
Jesus Christ.
Terabyte of data stolen. That's 6.6 million people across 325 pension schemes affected. The ICO investigation found that a single admin account had unrestricted access to the entire network. 3 separate penetration tests had identified this exact vulnerability before. Capita just never bothered to fix it. The ICO finds them for...
Here's the thing. Companies will do the bare minimum, if not below the minimum, as long as they don't get caught. And then when they get hacked, oh shit hits the fan. Pretty much, they're literally the surprise Pikachu face when they find out that there's actual consequences to their action, to their inaction, really.
£14 million, reduced from 45 million. Weeks later, Capita was found to have left benefits data in a publicly accessible cloud storage bucket. No password, no encryption, just sitting there, like Sheffield's ANPR cameras all over again. And then, and I genuinely need you to be sitting down for this one, the government awarded Capita a new £606 million contract for the DWP, Home Office, Ministry of Justice
Jesus
and
Christ.
The chair of the Public Accounts Committee called it extraordinary. I mean, I personally would have used a different word for that one. And they're not alone. Fujitsu...
I would use a very different word for that one. The exact opposite, extraordinary. Actually, they're extraordinarily stupid.
still runs the police national computers, and that's the database that tells officers whether someone's wanted or dangerous, while simultaneously being investigated by the Metropolitan Police for the Post Office Horizon scandal, in which their defective software led to the wrongful conviction of over 900 people. Since 2012, the
Jesus
government
Christ.
has awarded Fujitsu nearly 200 contracts worth £6.8 billion. After announcing a voluntary bidding pause, internal documents showed staff were given flow diagrams on how to keep bidding anyway. The system
What the
doesn't
fuck?
punish failure, it's somehow promoting it. It's not just Whitehall. Local councils have been getting hammered, and they've got a fraction of the resources to recover. Hackney Council, October 2020, the 𝙂𝙚 ransomware gang got in through a dormant account where the username and password were identical. Not similar, identical. 440,000 files encrypted, records containing residents' race, religion, sexual orientation, health conditions, and criminal history.
Sadly, you're distracted. What do you mean I'm distracted? So you know you can claim your badge watching it for an hour.
Traded and published on
For quote unquote watching it for an hour. Well, you just mute your tab.
the dark web. Housing benefits stopped. Staff were working with pen and paper for over a year. The cost was north of £50 million. The ICO's response? Naughty, naughty boys! Just another reprimand. Leicester City Council, March 2024. 3 terabytes of data stolen. Passport scans, driving licenses, bank statements for up to 400,000 residents. And because the hackers compromised the central management system, the city's street lights were left on 24 hours a day for weeks, which is
Oh,
either
wow.
a security failure or the most expensive nightlight in British history. Oh, then there's Transport for London. September 2024, initially described as affecting some customer data. A BBC investigation in early 26 revealed the truth. Approximately 10 million people had their data stolen. 10 million.
It just gets, honestly, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for as long as this video goes on. Holy shit. Holy shit. It somehow, when you think, how could this get any worse? It somehow gets so much worse in the most unexpected way possible.
All 30,000 TfL employees had to attend in-person appointments just to reset their passwords. Cost £39 million. The ICO cleared TfL of wrongdoing. 2 teenagers were arrested. I'll say that again. 10 million records. 2 teenagers. And the regulator said everything was fine? I don't know, maybe put the bloody teenagers in charge at this point. They can't do it any worse. And here's the important bit. That is your government's track record with data it already has. And now let's talk about the new data it is forcing you to hand over. The Online Safety Act is requiring platforms to implement highly effective age assurance. In practice, that means you, an adult, have to submit your passport, your driving license, or a scan of your face to a private computer before you can access legal content online. The government mandated this. It did not mandate that these companies meet any particular security or privacy standards. There is no public register of approved providers. There is no mandatory privacy framework. The Act itself requires age verification to be technically accurate, robust, reliable, and fair. It does not use the word secure or private. You can probably guess what happened next. 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚, an Israeli verification company used by TikTok, X, Uber, PayPal, and LinkedIn, had its admin credentials stolen by malware in December 2022. Those credentials were posted publicly on Telegram in March 2023, and they were still working when journalists finally discovered them in June 2024.
Oh, hell no.
18 months, a year and a half of open access to identity documents, and the company initially tried to pretend the credentials had been revoked. They had not. In February 2026, another verification company called Persona, used by Reddit and OpenAI, was found to have an exposed front end, revealing that it runs 269 separate verification checks, screens against watch lists, assigns risk scores, and retains your government ID numbers, facial analytics, and device fingerprints for up to 3 years. Discord dropped them immediately, and in November 2025, a company called 𝙂𝙚𝙣𝙚 was discovered to have left a database containing over 1 billion identity records, names, addresses, dates of birth, national ID numbers from 26 countries, completely unprotected. No password.
Jesus Christ.
Is this starting to sound familiar yet? The government forced you to hand your most sensitive documents to these companies. Within months, that data was leaked. The Electronic Frontier Foundation put it plainly. Age verification is fundamentally incompatible with privacy. The threat is not hypothetical. It is happening right now because the government mandated it into existence. Whew. Which brings us to gov.uk1. The government's digital identity system. 13 million users and counting. It stores your facial recognition data, your passport scans, your driving license. It is the replacement for gov.uk Verify, which was scrapped after burning through £175 million and achieving a 48% success rate against a 90% target. The Public Accounts Committee called it a textbook case of over-optimism. One login was supposed to be the one that worked. Then a cybersecurity whistleblower inside the government digital service identified over 500,000 vulnerabilities in the system. More than 10,000 were classified as critical. The whistleblower escalated their concerns to an MP. The National Cybersecurity Centre found what it called severe shortcomings, including risks to bulk data breach and mass fraud through impersonation. A red team exercise found that attackers could introduce malware without triggering any sort of monitoring or alerts.
Jesus
As
Christ.
of late 2024, the system met just 21 of 39 required cybersecurity standards. Development work had been offshored to Romania without the approval of the GDS chief executive or the NCSC. The original budget was £305 million. It's now past £329 million and is climbing, with the delivery date pushed back 3 years to 2028. The broader digital ID scheme, including something called the Brit Card and a gov.uk wallet, has been estimated to cost £1.8 billion. So let me get this straight. They have lost 25 million records on a pair of CDs. They emailed the identities of Afghan interpreters and spies to the Taliban by pressing the wrong button. They left the police service of Northern Ireland's entire workforce visible in a spreadsheet tab. They awarded £600 million to a company that took 2.5 days to notice it was being robbed. Their regulator fines government bodies roughly 5 pence on the pound. They forced you to hand your passport to companies that left their databases wide open. Their own whistleblower found 500,000 vulnerabilities in the system and got threatened for saying so. And now they want your face.
Ooh. The UK government is pretty much a bunch of how do I say this? A bunch of whining snowflake crybabies. Because as soon as they get called out, as soon as the UK government gets called out for anything, they pretty much threaten their own citizens with use intimidation. Pretty much they use intimidation tactics on their own citizens. Holy shit.
Unlike a password, you can't change your biometric data after a breach. You get one face, one set of fingerprints. When, not if, this data is compromised, there is no reset button. 63% of the British public say it does not trust the government to keep its data safe. That's not paranoia, that's pattern recognition. A parliamentary petition to block digital ID cards gathered nearly 3 million signatures. The government's response was to announce the gov.uk wallet anyway. Big Brother Watch
Jesus
called
Christ.
it the nightmare database state in mobile digital form. An independent cybersecurity expert warned that a centralized biometric database of 50 million records would be a honeypot for criminals. The question was never whether digital identity could work, in theory. I mean, Estonia's had one for 20 years. The question is whether this government, with this track record, these contractors, this accountability framework, and this approach to anyone who raises concerns, has earned the right to ask for your trust. I think you already know the answer to that one.
They have
One
not.
last thing.
Nope.
The reason the government keeps getting away with this, the lost discs, the unpatched systems, the contractors who fell upwards, is because most people don't know it's happening. These stories get a day in the news cycle and then disappear. The government is counting on that. They're counting on you not knowing the full picture because the full picture is so damning. So if this video told you something that you didn't know, share it.
Most likely this video was blocked in the UK. This video was likely blocked in the UK. And I hope to God someone download this video and upload it to the Internet Archive for the UK citizen to see.